Good evening or good morning, depending on where you are, or this good afternoon. Greetings to the 12 tribes of the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, scattered into the four corners of the earth according to Bible prophecy, through slavery and oppression because of disobedience, but awaiting the return of the line of the tribe of Judah to deliver them from their oppression and to establish a kingdom that will last forever. Greetings. Greetings also to those that are not of the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but want to serve the Most High Yah, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, as did the wise men from the east, and want to be grafted into the olive tree that is the scattered nation of Israel. Greetings. Blessings upon those that are working in the healthcare field, trying to save lives, to heal, to help, to comfort. Blessings upon those that pick up garbage for us to keep our places clean. Blessings upon those also that make deliveries for our convenience. Blessings also, double blessings, on people trying to help, deliver, save young boys, girls, teenagers, babies, men and women from sex slavery, from human trafficking, from child molestation, from pedophilia, which goes on every day, multiple times every day, in the homes of people in the United States of America and around the world. Blessings upon those trying to stop this disgusting situation. Curses, double curses on those that perform these heinous acts and support these disgusting, satanic industries. Finally, blessings upon those that are trying to help the homeless and upon the homeless themselves. Almost 600,000 people in the United States alone, men, women, children, families, veterans, and millions upon millions around the earth in similar or worse conditions. Blessings upon those that are trying to help, and double blessings on those themselves, for theirs is the kingdom. Speaking of the kingdom, we know it is soon to come. You know, in the days of Messiah, when the Messiah came to the earth as a man 2,000 years ago, when he walked the earth, and you read the Bible about the accounts of his ministry, the 3.5 years that he was on the earth as a man, in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, one of the things you will notice that you don't, if you read the Bible and you read, from Genesis, let's say you read the Old Testament, one of the things you will notice in the Gospels that you did not see in the Old Testament is when the Messiah was on the earth, there were multiple people that had demon possession. In fact, I don't think it's a stretch to say he spent a lot of his time casting devils out of the souls of people that have been taken over by devils. And you didn't see that in the Old Testament, but you saw it when Messiah arrived. Now, why was that? One of the things I'd like to point out and bring out, again, I always talk about we're in a spiritual war. This is a war of spirits, dark, evil spirits, and spirits of righteousness from the Father. This is a war that goes on behind the scenes that manifests itself in physical things that you see. And because of this war, the enemy is at a disadvantage in that he is on the side of darkness and not righteousness. And because of that, the Father of righteousness, everything the Father do is of righteousness and truth, everything. He never makes a mistake. I know people have a hard time believing that because of the false gods that you're worshiping. That's why you have a hard time believing it. There's only one true God, and you don't necessarily worship him when you go to church. But that being said, the true God only does righteousness. He only does truth. And when he's about to do something, he announces it through his prophets in the Bible. He announces what he's going to do to his people. It's for his people. In fact, let's look at the book of Revelation, because it actually defines, it's one of my favorite definitions of what prophecy is. The book of Revelation opens with the definition of prophecy. Revelation chapter 1, beginning at verse 1. Revelation chapter 1, beginning at verse 1. It opens with the definition of what prophecy is. So let me share that with you. Revelation chapter 1, beginning at verse 1. And the revelation of Messiah, the Yahushua, which Yah gave unto him, to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John, who bare record of the word of Yah, and of the testimony of Messiah Yahushua, and of all things which he saw. So that's, and actually people just, I used to do it myself. I've read it many times and just kind of didn't understand or glossed over it and didn't understand what it was really saying. But if you read this carefully, you understand that this is actually giving you the definition of prophecy. Now, again, the thing about truth in the Bible is the majority of the folks on the planet Earth will not accept it. That's the bottom line. The bottom line is people will not accept Bible truth from the King James Version of the Bible. They will not accept it. Majority of people won't accept it. They'll accept portions of it that they can twist and turn and make sound however they want, or justify their favorite denomination or their favorite religion. But as a whole, they will not accept it. And so there's a lot of things in here that they won't accept. This is one of them. The revelation of the Messiah. So this is the book, the word revelation. I mean, even in English, but if you look up the Greek, it's to be revealed, something to be revealed, something to be revealed of the Messiah, which Yah, the Father, which they call God, Father gave to the Messiah, right? So this is a revelation about Messiah, a revealing of something about the Messiah that the Father gave to him. Okay, to show, did it say to show everybody? Did it say to show everybody? It didn't say everybody. See, this is one of the things people don't accept. It's not for everybody. It says to show unto his servants. So this message, a revealing of the Messiah by the Father, that's given to Father's servants and Messiah's servants, only for them, to show unto his servants things that must shortly come to pass. Things that have not happened yet, but are going to come to pass some shortly. So it's a revealing of the Messiah from the Father. This revealing is given to his servants about things that are shortly getting ready to happen regarding the Messiah. Okay. And this message was given by an angel to the revelator, who we call John, whose name is Yachanan in the Hebrew. Yachanan said he bare record or bore witness of the message. And not only of the word of the Father, but of the testimony or the witness of Messiah and of all the things that he saw. So the book of Revelation is a revealing about the Messiah from the Father that is given to the servants of the Father through an angel to a prophet on the earth, who in this case is Yachanan, who we know is an Israelite, a Hebrew Israelite prophet. Okay? And that's the way all prophecy works in the Bible. The Father gives it to an angel who brings it to a prophet, a Hebrew Israelite prophet, who reveals it and bears record for the servants of the Father. Not everybody on earth is a servant. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had to specify for his servants. Okay? Not everybody on earth is the servants. Okay? So Father gives a revelation about the Messiah. Now, before I even continue, if you have read even just the New Testament, like a lot of Christians, if you have just read the New Testament, one of the things you do or you should know, let me just say, I assume you should know, is that the Messiah said, no man knows the day and hour of his return except the Father. Isn't that what he said? He said, of that day and hour knoweth no man. No, only the Father. So this revelation is telling us something that only the Father knows about the Messiah. And this is given to his servants from the Hebrew prophet. Well, who are his servants? Revelation chapter 7. Revelation chapter 7, beginning at verse 1. Revelation chapter 7, beginning at verse 1. Now I'm going to read from verse 1 down to verse 4. Look for the word servants. Look for the word servants. Revelation 7, 1 to 4. And after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living Most High. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our Most High in their foreheads. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Wait a minute. We just saw in Revelation chapter 1, verse 1, the book started that it was going to be a revelation, a revealing. And that the revealing was about the Messiah. It was a revelation of the Messiah. And that it was sent from heaven, from the third heaven, from the Father, by an angel, given to an earthly servant, Yochanan. But he said that this revelation was for his servants, to show his servants things that must shortly come to pass. And we have already established that the Messiah had already stated that his return is only known by the Father. So that the book of Revelation, among other things, is revealing to the servants the return of the Father, the return of Messiah, the return of the Messiah and the establishment of Messiah's kingdom. And indeed, it does. Indeed, it does. Now, we're not going to actually talk about that part tonight. But before, there's going to be something that happens before the return of the Messiah. Something that takes place in the third heaven, but that the servants on the planet Earth will understand and know that's taking place. I'll give you an example of what I'm saying. Not the very thing itself, but I'm going to give you an example of it in Daniel chapter 9. In Daniel chapter 9, Daniel is praying. And he's praying because he has been shown some things prophetically that bother him. You see, Daniel was a captive in Babylon. He became a eunuch in Babylon. He was taken from the southern kingdom of Judah by the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. He and a whole bunch of his people, captives, the ones that weren't killed, or the ones that didn't run to Africa, what we call Africa now, but they ran to Egypt. The ones that didn't run there, that were still alive, were taken captive. Daniel was among those captives. Jeremiah the prophet was alive at that time, and he gave a prophecy about the captivity in Babylon. He gave a prophecy about it, and he said that it was going to be 70 years. That the length of time they were going to be in Babylon was going to be 70 years. In fact, let me show you that. He said it was going to be 70 years. And so that's what the people were waiting for, the 70 years of the prophecy of Jeremiah. Okay, let me see here. It's Jeremiah. I'm always getting the two chapters confused. It's between chapter 29 and chapter 31, but I'm trying to make sure I get it here. Yeah. Okay. So it's Jeremiah chapter 29. I'm going to come to Daniel in a second. Jeremiah chapter 29. I just need you to know I don't write any notes beforehand. I'm just being guided through the scriptures as I'm talking to you. That's the way it always is. People don't believe that, but people that know me know that. I don't write anything down. I don't even remember sometimes what I spoke after, just to let you know. That's why I'm glad these things are being recorded. Because okay. All right. So Jeremiah chapter 29. I'm going to read from verse 8 down to verse 12. Okay. Actually, from verse 8 to verse 13. Jeremiah 29, 8 to 13. For thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the Most High of Israel, let not your prophets and your diviners that be in the midst of you deceive you. Neither hearken to your dreams which ye have caused to. Excuse me. Let me start over. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the Most High of Israel, let not your prophets and your diviners that be in the midst of you deceive you. Neither hearken to your dreams which ye cause to be dreamed, for they prophesy falsely unto you in my name. I have not sent them, saith Yahweh. For thus saith Yahweh, that after 70 years be accomplished at Babylon, I will visit you and perform my good word toward you, in causing you to return to this place. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith Yahweh, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. Then shall ye call upon me, and ye shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you. And ye shall seek me and find me when ye shall search for me with all your heart. So the prophecy was they were going to be in Babylon for 70 years. And at the end of 70 years, they were going to go back. Okay. And then again, Second Chronicles chapter 36. Second Chronicles chapter 36. Second Chronicles chapter 36. I'm going to begin at verse 16 of Second Chronicles chapter 36, verse 16. But they mocked the messengers of Yahweh and despised his words and misused his prophets until the wrath of Yahweh arose against his people, till there was no remedy. Therefore he brought upon them the king of the Chaldees, who slew their young men with the sword in the house of their sanctuary, and had no compassion upon young man or maiden, old man or him that stooped for age. He gave them all into his hand, and all the vessels of the house of Yahweh, great and small, and the treasures of the house of Yahweh, and the treasures of the king and of his princes, all these he brought to Babylon. And they burnt the house of Yahweh and brake down the wall of Jerusalem and burnt all the palaces thereof with fire and destroyed all the goodly vessels thereof. And them that had escaped from the sword carried he away to Babylon, where they were servants to him and his sons until the reign of the kingdom of Persia, to fulfill the word of Yahweh by the mouth of Jeremiah unto the land had enjoyed her Sabbath. For as long as she lay desolate, she kept Sabbath to fulfill 70 years. So again, 70-year prophecy. So Daniel was aware of this prophecy. The time came when Daniel was in Babylon and the Medes had already taken over, and it was the Medo-Persian Empire. And yet they had not yet been taken back. They had not gone back to the land. So he was praying. He had already also received prophecy of a 2,300-year period, whereas the enemies of Yah, those that hate the truth, were going to reign. And he was worried. He was concerned. So he began to pray and fast. I want you to notice, though, the time The time it says he was praying and fasting. Let's take a look at Daniel chapter 9. Daniel chapter 9. I'm going to begin at verse 20. This is at the end of Daniel's prayer, when his prayer was answered by the Most High while he was praying by the angel Gabriel. Daniel chapter 9, beginning at verse 20, going down to verse 21. And whilst I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel, and presenting my supplication before Yahweh my Most High for the holy mountain of my Most High, yea, whilst I was speaking in prayer, even the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation. The time of the evening oblation. What was that? Twice a day, at 6 a.m. and at 6 p.m., there was a sacrifice offered at the temple in Jerusalem. Okay? Daniel was not in Jerusalem. The temple had been destroyed. Remember, he said he was praying for the holy mountain. He was praying for Jerusalem, praying for Israel, tribe of the kingdom of Judah. He was praying, he said, for the holy mountain. He was confessing his sin and the sins of his fathers. That's true repentance right there. And while he was doing that, Gabriel came and he says about the time of the evening oblation. So it was about 6 o'clock in the evening when Gabriel came. The point I'm making here is there was no oblation going on. They were captives in Babylon. But Daniel was looking toward Jerusalem at the time when there would have been a sacrifice, but it wasn't there because the place was destroyed. Okay? So that the servants of the Most High can look forward to things that are going to happen even though they don't exist right now. For example, a lot of the Hebrew brethren, they're marking the dates of the feasts. Now, we can't really obey the feast the way the Bible tells us to in our enemy's land. I put it to you very simply. When we're in our own kingdom, in our own land, and we're one nation, and the whole world is worshiping Yahweh, and there's one God and one language, when it's time to have a feast, everybody will be going, right? Everybody will be celebrating. There'll be no persons that's not celebrating. There'll be no persons that don't understand what's going on. You won't have to ask your boss for time off to celebrate the feast, right? Because the Feast of Tabernacles and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is the Passover, lasts for 8 days. You won't have to ask your boss for time off to keep the feast, like you do when you're here in your enemy's land. But you can mark the time, right? And you can even try to get together. A lot of brethren do try to get together on the weekends when people are off of work. Try to get together to celebrate what we will be doing when we get back to the land, right? So we can't really keep it here. The temple is not here. The Ark of the Covenant is not here. Messiah is definitely not here. And so we can only look forward to what's coming. Okay? But there's a very important event that is going to take place in the third heaven. It's coming very shortly. It's called Jubilee. Let's read a little bit more about the Jubilee. Let's look at that because it's very important to the Hebrew servants of the Most High. Now, let me just also say this. The 144,000 we saw clearly are the servants of the Most High. The Bible just showed us that. But they're just the messengers. You see, they're the messengers like Yachanan was. Remember, he said he bore witness of the word that he received from the angel, and he bore witness of the testimony or the witness of Messiah. Right? And then if we read later more than that on chapter 1 of Revelation chapter 3, he placed a blessing on those that received the message and are obedient to the message. Now, what does that mean? That means the 144,000 are simply the receivers of the message, and they're going to bear witness of the message. and bear witness of the testimony of the Messiah to the rest of the servants that are on the planet, to whoever will receive it. Okay? So now we see here, as Daniel was praying for an event that wasn't happening in his enemy's land, but he was looking forward to it. And as the Hebrew Israelites now are celebrating the Passover or celebrating the Feast of Weeks or getting ready to prepare for the Day of Trumpets in preparation for the Day of Atonement, we are talking about the Jubilee. And the Jubilee takes place in the exact same day as the Day of Atonement. Let's take a look at it. We're going to spend a little time in Leviticus today. A lot of people don't understand Leviticus. You know why? Because they don't read it. And I have to understand. I understand. You know, sometimes it's hard for me to read it. You know why? Because there's a lot of slaughtering of animals going on in the book of Leviticus. There's a lot of slaughtering animals because they're representing the killing, the sacrifice of Messiah, right? And so there's a lot of sin offerings in the book of Leviticus. But among all that, there's a lot of important messages for the chosen people. Okay, so in Leviticus chapter 23, watch what it says, beginning at verse 26. Leviticus chapter 23, beginning at verse 26. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, also on the 10th day of the 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be an holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. So it's called the Day of Atonement. When is it? It is the 10th day of the 7th month. Now, somebody might say, was that July 10th? Somebody might do that. No, it's not July 10th. It's the 10th day of the 7th month of the Hebrew calendar. And for our purposes today, for the general, just to give you a general idea, it starts, let's say, on April 1st is the first day of the Hebrew year. I'm going to give you a general. It's not exactly that because it goes by moon phases. Okay. But let's say for the sake of argument, for the sake of simplicity today, let's say it's because it is in the spring. Okay. The beginning of the Hebrew year is in the spring, sometime after the equinox. So the equinox is the day in March when the 12 hours of sunlight and 12 hours of darkness, you know, that's the equinox. That's the equinox. You have the spring equinox and you have the fall equinox, where there's the same thing in the fall. And in the autumn, there's a time when there's exactly 12 hours of daylight and exactly 12 hours of darkness. Once that passes, now you're going to have, once you pass the equinox in the spring, you're going to have more daylight than sunlight. Then, you know, the days are going to continue to get longer. And then when you get to the equinox in the fall, it's going to be more days of darkness. The dark is going to be longer than the light. Okay. So when you get to the spring equinox, right when you pass that is the new year. The next new moon usually is the new year. See, so you're passing that time. So it's generally, you know, the equinox is generally around March the 18th, 20th, 21st, somewhere in that area. And then the next new moon is generally around between the end of March and end of April, generally somewhere in that area, right? So let's just take April 1st as an example in our example. So you got April, right? You got May, June, July, August, September, October, November, right? That's 7 months. I'm sorry. April, May, June. I'm off on my counting. April, May, June, July, August, September, October, right? So that's 7 months. So in our example, it would be October 10th. October would be the 7th month and it would be October 10th. It's not exactly like that all the time. I'm just giving you an example, okay? But that would be an example of the Hebrew time, the way the Hebrew counts it. So from the spring is your beginning of year, and then you go all the way 7 months. So here is saying, if we were looking at it the way I just gave it to you, this would be October 10th. right? But it's not, don't get it twisted. Now, I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying if we're looking at it like that, it would be. So the 10th day of the 7th month would be October 10th, as an example. On that day, something happens. It's called the Day of Atonement. Now, you got to look at it as a Hebrew. In the Hebrew, the day starts at 6 p.m. and it goes 24 hours until the next day at 6 p.m. Right? So the day starts, and it's divided up in 3-hour increments. So you have 3-hour increments. They call it the 3rd hour of the day. Like Peter said, in the day of Pentecost, we're not drunk, he said, because it's but the 3rd hour of the day. That's 9 a.m. Messiah, the Bible says when he was hung up on the tree, it was darkness over the land from the 6th hour, that's noon, until the 9th hour, that's 3 p.m. Okay, and he died at the 9th hour, 3 p.m. because that's when the sacrifice will be made, because after that, it's going to be a next day, right? So the Day of Atonement starts at 6 p.m. and then goes all the way through until 6 p.m. Okay? So it's one day, right? Now, what happens on that day? What happens in the Day of Atonement? It's called the Day of Atonement. Somebody's getting something atoned for. There's an atonement made for something, right? Okay, Leviticus chapter 23. Again, let's start at verse 27. I'm going to go down from verse 27. Also, on the 10th day of the 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. And ye shall do no work in that same day, for it is a day of atonement to make atonement for you before Yahweh, your Most High. So make an atonement for each of the people in the nation of Israel. It wasn't for Babylon. It wasn't for Egypt. It wasn't for any other nation. It was to make an atonement for the children of Israel. Only the children of Israel and those strangers that were among them, because they served the same God. It wasn't for the rest of the nations. Okay, remember that. To make an atonement for the sins of the people of the nation of Israel and those that dwell among them. Now, we understand that we don't kill animals today because Messiah is the sacrifice. On the 9th hour, when he died, on that year in the Passover in AD 31. We understand that he became sin for us who knew no sin, that we might be made the righteousness of the Father in him. Okay? But there's still a Day of Atonement. Let's continue. Verse 29. For whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. And whatsoever soul it be that doth any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy from among his people. Ye shall do no manner of work, for it shall be a statute forever throughout your generations and in all your dwellings. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls. In the 9th day of the month at even, even from even unto even, shall ye celebrate your Sabbath. See? So again, Sabbath is from even to even. And so in the 9th day at sunset, and they count that as 6 o'clock, you go through, that's where the day starts. 6 o'clock at sunset on the 9th day becomes the 10th day, and it goes all the way through to 6 o'clock the following day. Now, they were to afflict their souls. What that means, they can be confessing their sin. They'll be repentant of their sin. Remember, they were in the land. So it wasn't like they had to take off work or have to worry about asking somebody about getting off work. The whole nation was doing this. That's why he said, if you do any work, you're going to be destroyed, because everybody should be in repentant mode on the 10th day of the 7th month. For the nation, this is for the whole nation, okay, to have their sins forgiven as a nation, to have the sins taken off of them, to be declared as a nation righteous, to be declared as a nation righteous. Now, I already said to you, we're not in the land. We're not here. So how can we have a Day of Atonement? The Day of Atonement in there, in the Lamb, was pointing to the Day of Atonement in the third heaven. Whereas here, they slaughtered an animal on the Day of Atonement. In the third heaven, Messiah is the sacrifice. Now, it's called a Day of Atonement, right? So it's not going to be 10 days of atonement. It's one day, one 24-hour period. So what's going on now? When is that 24-hour period? Well, the problem, brethren, we study Bible prophecy. The Day of Atonement in the third heaven took place in the 1800s. And that's why, let's go back to Revelation again, because after the Day of Atonement that was taking place in the 1800s to cleanse the sanctuary for good, to declare the nation of Israel, the scattered people, righteous, Messiah is going to return, because in the 7th day of the 10th month, I told you in our example, it was October 10th. On October 15th, 5 days later, there would be a feast. It was called the Feast of Tabernacles. See, after they afflicted themselves and they received forgiveness and the whole nation was declared righteous, there would be a Feast of Tabernacles. That's when everybody gets together. They party up for 8 days. 8 days, right? Starts 5 days later on the 15th day of the 7th month, which in our example would be October 15th. So in prophetic utterance, as the Messiah cleanses the scattered nation from sin in the Day of Atonement, the third heaven, he would be returning. And instead of 5 days, in Bible prophecy, a day is equal to a year. It would be 5 years later he would return. Okay? Right? Because a day is equal to a year. In the book of Revelation, where we just read, in Revelation chapter 7, when you read just above that in Revelation chapter 6, you'll see something very interesting. Notice what it says, Revelation chapter 6, Revelation 6 beginning at verse 12, Revelation chapter 6 beginning at verse 12, we're dealing with the 6th seal of the 7th seal book of life that Messiah is unraveling, right? Which is going to show who his subjects in his new kingdom are. That's the book of life. He's on the 6th seal there. And notice in Revelation chapter 6, verse 12, notice what it says. And I beheld when he had opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake. And the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. And the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every freeman hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come. And then a question is asked. And who shall be able to stand? Now, after we saw this here, we just read chapter 7. And one interesting thing we saw in chapter 7, Revelation chapter 7, verse 2. And I saw another angel ascending. When somebody's ascending, they're going up, right? So he said he saw an angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living Most High. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea. So he's rising up, going back to the third heaven with a seal in his hand. And while he's going, he's giving a message to the 4 angels that were holding destructive powers that was waiting on the earth to destroy the whole thing. And he said, hold them, right? Verse 3, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our Most High in their forehead. So he's going back up. And he's telling the angels, hold back these winds until we get to seal these servants. This 144,000 were the servants. So apparently the angel came down. You can't go back up unless you come down first. So the angel came down with the seal, and he was shown that the servants weren't prepared. Why? Because in the 1800s, in 1843, when he came down, the servants were in chains. That's why. The servants were all over the earth in slavery. That's why. Okay? So he said, hold the winds until we can seal the servants, which indicates multiple things. First of all, Father is already prepared to send his son back. Second of all, the only thing the Father is holding up the Father from doing it is finishing the seal of the servants who at this time when the angel came, they was enslaved. And the only thing he's waiting for is perfection of seal on them. Okay? Okay. That would come at the end of the Day of Atonement, because as I mentioned when we started this, I said to you that the Day of Atonement on the 10th day of the 7th month happens to be the same day that there's a Jubilee every 50 years. So every 50 years, on the same day as the Day of Atonement, there's a Jubilee. Every 50 years. Let's look at it. Leviticus chapter 25. Leviticus chapter 25. Back into the word of the Most High. Leviticus chapter 25. There's a lot of people that look at this book called the Book of Jubilees, and it supposedly talks about Jubilees before the flood, which in and of itself is impossible because Jubilee did not exist until the children of Israel were in the land. Okay, this is one of the things I tell you about all these other books. Jubilee did not exist until the children of Israel was in the land. Let's take a look at it in Leviticus chapter 25, beginning at verse 1. And Yahweh spake unto Moses in Mount Sinai, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye come into the land, notice what it said. When ye come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto Yahweh. 6 years thou shalt sow thy field, and 6 years thou shalt prune thy vineyard, and gather in the fruit thereof. But in the 7th year shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land, a Sabbath unto Yahweh. Thou shalt neither sow thy field nor prune thy vineyard. That which groweth of its own accord of thy harvest thou shalt not reap, neither gather the grapes of thy vine undressed, for it is the year of rest unto the land. So he said, when you get into the land, 6 years, do your business, grow your crops. But in the 7th year, don't plant anything, don't grow anything. Let's continue. Somebody might say, well, how are they supposed to eat? Let's keep reading. Verse 6. And the Sabbath of the land shall be meat for you, for thee, and for thy servant, and for thy maid, and for thy hired servant, and for thy stranger that sojourneth with thee. See, everybody that's in the land, whether they be bloodline or not bloodline, but they are serving the same God. You're hearing me, Gentile. They're serving the same God. Everybody with the Israelites serving the Israelite God. Okay. Verse 7. And for thy cattle and for the beasts that are in thy land shall all the increase thereof be meat. And thou shalt number 7 Sabbaths of years unto thee, 7 times 7 years. And the space of 7 Sabbaths of years shall be unto thee 49 years. So every 7 years the land has rest. So you do that every 7 years for 49 years. Okay, for 49 years. All right. Verse 9. Watch these words very carefully. In verse 9 of Leviticus chapter 23. Then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound. Okay, so in the 50th year, there's going to be a trumpet of a Jubilee that sounds. Let's keep reading. In the 10th day of the 7th month, in the Day of Atonement, shall ye make the trumpet sound throughout all your land. So now, in the 50th year, on the 10th day of the 7th month, the trumpet's going to sound, and it's a Jubilee. Now, the word Jubilee, it means, it's the word, you can look at it in the regular Hebrew, Teruah, or you can say ancient Hebrew, tarawah, but it's a large sound of either war or celebration. That's Jubilee. It's the same word for either war or celebration. Large sound. Okay, so they're going to cause the trumpet to sound, the Jubilee. Verse 10. And ye shall hallow the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and ye shall return. This is the key thing here. You shall return every man unto his possession, and ye shall return every man to his family. A jubilee shall that 50th year be unto you. Ye shall not sow nor reap that which groweth of itself in it, nor gather grapes in it of the day of thy vine undressed. For it is the Jubilee. It shall be holy unto you. Ye shall eat the increase thereof out of the field. In the year of this Jubilee, ye shall return every man unto his possession. And if thou sell aught unto thy neighbor, or buyest aught of thy neighbor's hand, ye shall not oppress one another. According to the number of the years after the Jubilee, thou shalt buy of thy neighbor, and according to unto the number of years of the fruit shall ye sell. Now, so all land is restored to the children of Israel's original people, their owners, the tribes, get their own land back. All debts are forgiven. It's the Day of Atonement. What else is happening? The nation is being declared righteous. The nation is being declared righteous, and all land that they had lost, maybe they lost the land, maybe you had knucklehead relatives or whatever, you get the land back. It's yours. You don't work. You just celebrating and you living off the land. Okay? Now, the Bible says, I'm looking for, but it says that they said, don't worry about the food, because in the 6th year, I'm going to give you enough food for 3 years. The Most said, I'm going to bless you, and I'm going to give you enough for 3 years in the 6th year. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay? Now, one of the signs of the Messiah, is that he would announce a Jubilee. That's one of the signs of the Messiah. And let's take a look at that. In Isaiah chapter 61. Isaiah chapter 61. This is where we first get it. Isaiah chapter 61. Beginning Isaiah 61. I'm going to begin at verse 1. Isaiah 61. And it says, the Spirit of Yahweh Most High is upon me, because Yahweh hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound. To proclaim, this is it right here, the acceptable year of Yahweh, in the day of vengeance of our Most High, to comfort all that mourn, to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of Yahweh, that he might be glorified. So Messiah has come to announce a Jubilee. You say, somebody might ask, well, did he announce it when he first came, or is he going to announce it the second time? The answer is both. Let's look at the first time. Luke chapter 4. Luke chapter 4. Now, when you study Daniel 9 properly, what you will understand is that when Messiah arrived on the planet Earth as a man to begin his public ministry, the Bible tells us he was 30 years old. And it was AD 27 when he started his public ministry. He got baptized, he was tempted, and then he came to his town of Nazareth. When he came there, he made an announcement. Luke chapter 4. Luke chapter 4. Begin at verse 14. Luke chapter 4, beginning at verse 14. And Yahweh shall return in the power of the Spirit into Galilee. And there went out a fame of him through all the region round about. And he taught in their synagogues, being glorified of all. And he came to Nazareth when he had been brought up. And as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read. And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written, the Spirit of Yahweh is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and the recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, to preach the acceptable year of Yahweh. And he closed the book and gave it again to the minister and sat down. And the eyes of all them that were in the synagogue were fastened on him. And he began to say unto them, this day is this scripture fulfilled in your ears. That was the announcement of the beginning of the ministry of the Messiah. He would continue his ministry for 3.5 years. And in AD 31, this was the fall, the autumn of AD 27. 3.5 years later, in the spring of AD 31, according to the Roman calendar, he would be crucified in the beginning of the Hebrew year in the Passover, because he was the Passover lamb. Now, that was AD 27 in the fall, 10th day of the 7th month. Now, every 50 years is a Jubilee. Right now, Messiah and the Father are in heaven, the third heaven, and they are interceding, not for everybody. I know people don't want to hear this, but it's only for the Israelite people and those with the Israelite people, just like it was in Leviticus. Only thing is not in Jerusalem on the earth. It's in the New Jerusalem, which is above, the Bible says, and is mother of us all. So now, every 50 years is a Jubilee. AD 27, AD 77, 127, 177. And you keep going until you get to 2027. Why is 2027 significant? 2027 would be exactly 2,000 years, 40 Jubilees from when Messiah made his first announcement. 40 Jubilees. The number 40 is significant in the Bible. We know here, the Bible tells us in Luke, while we're here in Luke chapter 4, look at verse 1 and 2. And Yahushua, being full of the set apart spirit, returned from Jordan and was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, being 40 days tempted of the devil. And in those days he did eat nothing. And when they were ended, he was afterward hungered. So he was tempted for 40 days. What else is 40 in the Bible? Numbers chapter 13. Numbers chapter 13. The spies were sent into the promised land to come back and bring a report. Okay. Spies were sent into the promised land to come back and bring a report in Numbers chapter 13. Let's take a look. Verse 25. And they returned from searching the land after 40 days. And we know what happened after that. They started murmuring and complaining, and they ended up not going into the promised land at that time and being sent back into the wilderness for 40 years. Numbers chapter 14, verse 34. After the number of the days in which ye searched the land, even 40 days, each day for a year, shall ye bear your iniquities, even 40 years, and ye shall know my breach of promise, each day for a year. So they were tested. They failed the test. They went back into the wilderness and they were tested again for 40 years. Now, Deuteronomy chapter 8. The book of the law, chapter 8, Deuteronomy. These be the words, chapter 8. It's going to define this for us in Deuteronomy chapter 8. I'm going to begin at verse 1. I'm going to go from verse 1 down to verse 6. All the commandments which I command thee this day ye shall observe to do, that ye may live and multiply and go in and possess the land which Yahweh sware unto your fathers. Thou shalt remember all the way which Yahweh thy Most High led thee these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble thee and to prove thee, to know what was in thine heart, whether thou wouldest keep his commandments or no, to humble thee and to prove thee. That prove word is the word test. So 40 is a test. Messiah was tested. The children of Israel were tested. Okay. Elijah was tested 40 days. 40 is the test. Okay. To prove what was in thy heart, whether thou wouldest keep his commandments or no. And he humbled thee and suffered thee to hunger and fed thee with manna which thou knewest not, neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that every man doth not live by bread alone only, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of Yahweh doth man live. Thy raiment waxed not old upon thee, neither did thy foot swell these 40 years. Thou shalt also consider in thine heart that as a man chasteneth his son, so Yahweh thy Most High chasteneth thee. Therefore thou shalt keep the commandments of Yahweh thy Most High, to walk in his ways and to fear him. So 40 is the time of testing. From when Messiah first made the announcement in AD 27, it is 40 Jubilees to AD 2027. In the fall of AD 2027, there will be the 7th day, the 10th month. There'll be an announcement made of a Jubilee where all debts will be forgiven of the Israelites and those with the Israelites. When there's a scattered nation, they will be declared righteous. And within 5 years, there will be a massive celebration of a Jubilee. After the Jubilee, there'll be a massive celebration of the day of the Feast of Tabernacles. So here we are, AD 27, coming upon when the seal will take place, because that's what it represents. Being declared righteous is a seal by the Spirit of the Father. You were declared righteous because of the Father's righteousness that you received. That's what the whole nation received on the Day of Atonement. So on the Jubilee, not only do we receive the declaration of righteousness from the Father because of his Spirit, we're sealed, and the announcement is made that our land will be restored to us. AD 27, 6 years away, not far. Now, I don't know what's going to happen on planet Earth at that time, at that exact time that the seal takes place. We're going to all see, but we're going to have the seal of the Father at that time. I know that within that 5-year period, we're going to see the Messiah. That I know. Within that 5 years, after that, Messiah is going to come. So that's why I say we don't have much more time left, y'all. It's less than 12 years. It's like 11 years left before this is all over. And I mentioned the fact that you didn't hear about demon possession in the Old Testament until Messiah came the first time. But now, brethren, demon possession is at an all-time high. At the time of the Messiah, when he first appeared on the earth, the demons were foaming at the mouth and rolling on the floor and throwing themselves in fire and cutting themselves, right? Well, today, the demons are like this. 2 days ago, they found a man they were looking for. He had picked up a woman who thought he was her Uber driver. He looked like an Uber driver. He picked her up, but he wasn't the Uber driver. She just assumed he was. He raped her and murdered her. And he looked just like a regular Uber driver. And that's how we got demon possession today. People can look normal. A lot of y'all would know if you've been on any of these dating sites. People all sound good. They all sound normal. Oh, they love you. Until you meet them. Or until you decide to get together. Then you find out this is not what I thought it was. Because the demon possession today is of such import, such power, that people can look just like you and me, regular, normal people. And they could be mass murderers, rapists, killers, liars, and more. And so as we're now approaching 2027, demon possession is at an all-time high, and it's going to get worse. One of the things that Messiah did, as you recall, when he walked the earth the first time, was cast out demons. As the servants receive the seal, you're going to see more of that. You're going to see the casting out of demons. Now, what I'm saying to you, what we do know, what I started to say at the beginning of this talk was, because of the spiritual war that we're in, the enemy, the dark powers, what they do is try to anticipate and react to what the Father's going to do. The Father doesn't anticipate and react to Asatan. Let me give you an example. If something, let's say you met, like for example, I met my wife. The night I knew she was going to be my wife was in 1984. When the Most High told me this is her. That was 1984, sometime around, I think it was around February or March of 1984. And she ended up being my wife. We got married that same year in 1984. And now we would have been married 37 years this year. So, and we are going to be married, like I said, would have been, but in our next anniversary, it'll be 37 years. But even though I found out I was supposed to marry her in 1984, the Father set that in motion from before the earth was created, right? So he already knew from before the earth was created that on such and such a day, at such and such a time, such and such a place, I was going to meet this woman, she was going to meet me, and we would be together. He didn't just do that day. Say, oh, this morning I'm going to introduce you to this woman. No. He knew from before the foundation of the earth, because the Father sets things in motion with his word. And so all the universe and nature in the universe obeys his word and follows his command in whatever day, all the way to the day of the Messiah. The devil is not like that. He's reacting. In whatever he's done, he's reacting to the Father's word that was declared before the foundation of the earth. So as I today revealed to you that in 2027, there's going to be a day of atonement. There's going to be a jubilee. There's going to be a seal. Asatan is going to react to that. And he's already reacting to it. And he's going to bring about more demon possession as much as he can. Much more death, much more destruction, much more war. He's going to bring it out because he's reacting to what the Father set in motion before the earth was even spoken into existence. And the Father's will 100% of the time be done. 100% of the time. Okay, everything is done according to exactly his will. And so what you're going to see and what you're now seeing is the reaction. See, what I was taught in Christianity is to watch what the devil's doing and watch how the Father acts. No, don't work like that. It's the opposite. Father sets the tone. The enemy, the dark spirits, react to what they see happening, to what was spoken. Because they know, the enemy of souls knows that when Father Yah speaks, his word comes to pass. So he's doing everything he can to counteract what he knows has been spoken. As his servants, what we do is trust what has been spoken. Because part of our enemy's desire is to get us to distrust what has been spoken. And the Father allows, like he did with our fathers when they went to 40 days to the children went 40 days into the promised land, and they were scared because they saw armies, they saw giants, they saw fortified cities, and they were scared that they couldn't take it. But Joshua and Caleb said, we can take it, because Joshua and Caleb believed the word that the Father had given them through Moses. Whereas the 10 spies said, no, we can't take it. We're grasshoppers. They're going to stomp us. They're going to kill us. And the Father allowed that. He allowed them to see that, to look like it was not going to work for them, to see if they did what? If they trusted his word that he had spoken before the foundation of the earth. And that's our test. Before the foundation of the earth, he knew you and I would be at this time. We could have been born 100 years ago. We could have been born 1,000 years ago. We could have been born. We don't control when we're born. None of us can control when we're born. But Father already knows who his servants are, and he already knows when they're going to be born, and he already knows what he's preparing. So at this time, where we live right now, you're born for this time. It's either you're born to play whatever role. You're going to play the role for the spirits of darkness, for the spirits of righteousness. That's up to you. But there's no coincidence that you were born now. And the majority of the people that are alive now are going to be there in 2027. And they're going to be there in 2032. Your leaders, the majority of these people, some of these old ones are going to die for sure. But you're going to see a lot of these people, they're going to be there. They're going to play major roles. The question is, what role are you and I going to play? Are we going to be on the side of the Jubilee? Or are you going to be against it? Because our Satan is reacting to it. He's already reacting to it. As he brings more demon possession to people, the Father will put more of his spirit on his people to discern, to have power to cast out. He's going to do that. He's given us the power to discern, and he's going to give us the power to cast out. Angels are given to us to protect us. Let me show you. Well, first, we're in Luke chapter 4. While we're in Luke chapter 4, take a look. Luke chapter 4. Luke chapter 4. Let's see. No, that's not one I want. That's not the one I want. That's not the one I want. That's not the one I want. No, it's not. Hold on one second, brethren. That's not the one I want. Bear with me one moment. First, I'm going to go to, because I can't find it, I'm going to go to Psalm 91. Psalm 91. That's the one I originally wanted. Psalm 91. Psalm 91. Yep, Psalm 91. Psalm 91. A precious promise is Psalm 91 for us here in the last days. It really is, because listen what it says. Psalm 91, beginning at verse 1. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of Yahweh, he is my refuge and my fortress, my Most High. In him will I trust. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. Because thou hast made Yahweh, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation, there shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. And they shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against the stone. He shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. Yes. So the angel of Yahweh, the Bible says, encampeth round about them that fear him and delivereth them. Let me give you that one too. That's also a psalm. The angel of Yahweh encampeth round about them that fear him and delivereth them. Oh man, I need to find that one. I think it's Psalm 34. Psalm 34. I'm looking in 37, but I think it's 34 I'm looking for. Psalm 34. Yep. Psalm 34. Praise the Most High. Psalm 34. Watch what it says. Psalm 34. I'm beginning at verse 1. We'll read down to verse 7. I will bless Yahweh at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul shall make her boast in Yahweh. The humble shall hear thereof and be glad. Oh, magnify Yahweh with me, and let us exalt his name together. I sought Yahweh, and he heard me and delivered me from all my fears. They looked unto him and were lightened, and their faces were not ashamed. This poor man cried, and Yahweh heard him and saved him out of all his troubles. The angel of Yahweh encampeth round about them that fear him and delivereth them. Yes, he does. So as we're getting through this dark period, and we're in the period that we're living in is one of the darkest periods in the planet Earth's history, and it's going to get darker. I mean, that's what it is. Like today, I was listening. There's a senator from West Virginia, Joe Manchin, holding up all kind of stuff in the Congress that's supposed to help the Hebrews. Of course, he's going to hold it up. But at the same time, his daughter owned one of the biggest employers of companies in West Virginia, got a $31 million payout, then decided to close the company. Okay. Oh, he act like he don't know nothing about it. His daughter just got $31 million and closed the company and laid everybody off as of tomorrow. They got to be out. Thousands of people out of work. But they don't care because they got the 31 million. You see where we're living, brother? You see what this type of earth we're living in the freest country on the earth? People don't even know now where their next paycheck is coming from. You know, West Virginia, that is a poor state. Okay, it's a poor state. So they're going to have to do something, right? Brethren, this is the type of world we're living in. Demons everywhere. Demons in the Senate, demons in Congress, demons in Uber, demons online, demons everywhere. And it's going to get worse. It's getting dark now. But we have the promise, the angel of Yahweh, encampeth round about them that fear him and delivereth them. Praise the Most High Yahweh. He keepeth all his bones, not one of them broken. He will deliver, he will protect us. But we have to trust in the Most High Yah as we're getting closer to this time. He has shown us now how much time is left. It's not that much. He's revealing it to us. Not that much time is left. 6 more years until that day of atonement in 2027 takes place, the 40th Jubilee since Messiah. Here we go, brethren. Get close to the Most High. You know, 6 years go by real fast like that. Y'all know that. It's going by real quick. We ain't got that much time left. It ain't. And so I'm telling you, you're going to see a lot of reaction from these powers of darkness. You're going to see it. But please, pray to your Father. Go to your Father. Go to Messiah and ask him to introduce you to your Father, because he will do that. Messiah will do that for you. Messiah, Hawashai, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Go to him and say, introduce me to my Father, Master. Introduce me to him. He will show you. Father himself loveth you. And Messiah will represent you before the Father, so that the Father will cover you in his righteousness and forgive your sin and heal you. He will do that and prepare you for, as we said, what's soon to come. I pray that you receive that forgiveness and healing. I pray that your family does too. I pray that you're all prepared against the day of atonement that's soon to come, the Jubilee that's coming, and that you will also be sealed and prepared to stand with the redeemed in the land, in the kingdom of Messiah, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Shalom.